DrZero right now will join to Belgrade. We had our guest from Belgrade before, Danıica. Welcome again. How are you?
Hi, Serdar. Doing well. Thanks. How are you?
Fine, fine. Last time I forgot to tell you, but I like your background. It looks very cool. What is there? What is it behind you?
My background, I'm actually a little bit outside of Belgrade in my family home that I inherited from my parents. And I'm up in my attic office, and those are pictures of my kids and family, and my parents up there, and my brother. And those are that back there, right there. Where is it? Is a photo that I picked up with my husband on holiday in Montenegro. And some of the other art that you barely see in the corner is my
A little bit.
husband's
Yeah.
art that he did in college. So
Wow.
I am surrounded in my home office, and my son's artwork is over there on that wall, and my daughter's artwork is up here too. So up here in my office, I'm surrounded by my family and their work and their creativity,
The family
to
arts.
remind me of, yes, to remind me of why I work.
Perfect. Wonderful. That window, does it look like outside? Does it look to outside or inside the building?
Yeah, that actually, it looks to the outside, but it looks straight onto our roof. That side over here, you can't see right here to my right. I
No.
have another window, and I'm looking at a gorgeous, at just the last rays of a gorgeous sunset over the mountains here in Serbia.
Oh, I hope to see that art plays in these windows hopefully
Yeah,
next time
you're welcome to visit whenever you're in or around Belgrade.
after this crazy new normal ends.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
You
When we're
are,
free, finally.
yes, hopefully. We know each other for a long time, and I know you are an entrepreneur, but you didn't get entrepreneurship education. You are self-taught entrepreneur that learned everything from the market. But now you are actually invited by the universities, companies. You provide training, education. You are guest lecturer in many institutions. So I just wonder, do we do, as people who teach in the academia, good job to teach people entrepreneurship when it comes to experience that you have in the reality?
Yeah, okay. Your questions are always on point and fantastic and very easy to answer. So here's your
Thank you.
answer. Your answer is yes and no. Do you do some
Which one
great
is
things?
yes, which one
Yes.
is no?
All
So
right. All right. So here's the thing.
should I be happy or unhappy?
All right. So, you can always do better. But all right. So first, let me address what you called self-taught. Obviously, I had a lot of help along the way. And so here's the thing. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I come from a very long line on my father's side of entrepreneurs. Almost all of them were small and micro business owners, many of them in the trades. My grandfather was a baker who owned his own bakery, and so on and so forth. My father was, I would call it, a consultant in sports. I would say a freelancer. What my father did was he was a conditioning coach for soccer teams in Europe and the Middle East. But he worked 1, 2, 3, 5 year contracts. So I also learned from him in terms of how you build your career, how you keep learning while you're working to stay relevant in an industry, especially in a fast-paced, highly competitive industry like sports. Um, so I learned a lot from my past. I paid attention. But the most I mean, you can't beat experience, right? I learned the most from the many, many, many mistakes that I made. So yes, some people consider me an expert, and I like that definition of being what is an expert? It's a person who's made every possible mistake in a certain industry or certain field. And yes, that would be me. I started several businesses over the last 20 years. Most of them failed, many of them because of me, because of where I went wrong, because of the partners that I chose, because of where I decided to start these businesses. So one thing that I would really recommend is you're going to make mistakes in business. You're going to make mistakes in life, in relationships, and everything. What's really important for business, though, is analysis. In every quarter, in every year, in every failed or successful business, you need to go back and look and say, what could I have done differently? I don't care how bad the market was. I don't care if a pandemic hit. I don't care what happened. You need to go back and ask the question, how could I have done better? What could I have done differently? You know what? You have to set your ego aside and do that and really look at where was it your fault, or where could you have done better? Um, so that's really important. And frankly, mistakes are what's not being taught in schools. I look at universities. I have a very dear friend who does some great case studies with studying with her students, and that's all fantastic. But where are the case studies of the businesses that failed? Where
Mm-hmm.
are the case studies of why big companies are shutting down? This is what you should be teaching your students. The big companies, especially in today's day and age, so many retail chains shutting down. Why? Why couldn't they be the next Amazon? Where did they go wrong? What did they not accept? What did they not change? How did they not adapt?
Mm-hmm.
Because in business and in entrepreneurship, adaptation is essential, just like in human evolution. So yeah, that's what's missing. The mistakes. Studying the mistakes.
So can you please give example? Like we just say, okay, these are failed because they had they couldn't adapt the change. But how should we study these mistakes? Should we go more in depth to understand the mistakes that they have done, the decision that they took, or can we provide an environment that students actually can fail a couple of times? Like, can we create a fail-free environment that they test some ideas, but not only from the books? So, what do you suggest? What
Right,
should we
both.
do?
Both. There are case studies, like we already have the mechanisms and the approach for successful businesses. And let's do a case study or marketing campaigns or whatever it is. We do case studies of successful things. We can also go in and analyze and frankly do a post-mortem of mistakes, or even companies that survived but that made this mistake, but how did they survive, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
a great example, just a really quick example, is a company here in Serbia that I use all the time, manufacturer of juices and water. I'm not going to mention the company's name. It was privately owned. This guy and his team, they built it up. It was one of the biggest companies in that sector in the country, and they wanted to expand to the European market and then possibly the global market. I'll tell you right away, looking at dissecting at where they went wrong, it's really easy to see where they went wrong. But it's also a mistake that is frequently made here. Where they went wrong is they got the orders in, they poured millions into advertising in Europe. They started getting the orders in. Well, you know what? Their manufacturing capacity wasn't up to par, and they couldn't get it up to par fast enough. So again, very easy to take a look at and analyze and learn from that.
So do
But
you
so
mean
the
that
post-mortem,
they didn't have a problem to get the order? Their problem was they got too much order that they can handle. So it is a growth problem that they couldn't manage.
yeah, and they lost the company. The
Wow.
company ended up in debt because of it, and they ended up having to sell it. Yeah. So the second thing that you could be doing is that's fantastic, a fantastic idea is yet let them make mistakes. You know, like in many high schools around the world or even elementary schools, we give kids either an egg to take care of for a week, or, you know, a fake baby, or we do it on paper and say, like, you know, do a schedule for who's watching the baby and who's watching this and who's watching that. Home economics, which by the way should be back in schools immediately for everyone, for all genders and all
Yeah, we
ages.
don't have it right now,
But
isn't it?
oh, I happen to think that entrepreneurship and basic finance should be taught in, you know, junior high and high school.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that is necessary for a household budget, and you know, and work and building everything. So yeah, second thing is, yes, over a period of a year or a semester, have them build up their business and have them go around and try to sell their product to others and try to sign deals with others, and you know, that would be fantastic. And then show them A, how difficult it is, and B, put their ideas to practice, because through making mistakes, you have this initial idea, And then you start doing it in real life, and then you make mistakes, and then you pivot that idea and you change it based on the
Mhm.
mistake you've made.
Usually, I think it is a great idea because one of the challenge that I think we like to teach this. Okay, we don't provide opportunity for them to test it, but meanwhile they really don't know how to pivot it because sometimes we really fall in love with the idea, like the term "kill your darlings." So people don't want to change it. We become stubborn not to change the idea, and we try to find
Mm-hmm.
excuses not to change the idea. It is not successful because people don't understand our product. We should let them to understand the product. But you tell them, hey, if you have been spending a couple of years, maybe there's no problem about explaining to the people, but the problem with your
Mm-hmm.
product, the way you package, the way you try to uh, create, deliver, and capture the value. So it is really, I think we are not teaching how to pivot it, like learn from the failures and adapt. So this is interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely an approach that is necessary.
Thank you very much. It is fantastic always to talk to you,
Always.
and I wish you a great time in Belgrade.
Thank you, Seth.